Hi, solution partners. This is Austin Birmingham from the channel marketing team. I'm a channel marketing specialist with Atlassian, and I specifically work with partners across the Americas and across Asia Pacific. I want to welcome you to the webinar today that's being hosted by Colleen Fry and Lauren Turney, and we're going to be talking about event operations and logistics. So to get started, I'll first turn the time over to Colleen.
Thank you so much, Austin. And thank you so much for those of you who are joining us for our event operations webinar. I'm Colleen Fry, and with me is Lauren Tierney. I've been on the events team at Atlassian for 6.5 years, and Lauren joined a year and a half ago. We're both on the ops team here, and we're excited to provide some helpful tips on planning an event. If you are looking for more information on registration and marketing, please reference the first webinar in this series titled Event Acquisition and Registration. Now Lauren is going to take it away.
Thanks, Colleen. We've broken the areas down from pre-event planning, on-site logistics, and post-event tips. Let's jump in. A lot goes into planning an event. Once the idea of an event comes to light, you'll want to figure out what the program might include, create goals around the program size, secure budget and location, and identify your needs to make the program a success. The way our team works is that we break everything up into work streams, and then one person is the driver of that work stream. For example, we have an operations work stream, which owns all of the budget, floor plans, signage, and food and beverage for the whole event. Another example is the event marketing work stream. This person owns all of the emails, social, and promotions for our event. This way, we can keep track of who owns what and make sure nothing is being missed. This is what works best for our team, but we know depending on your event and team size, a lot of these roles will be combined. Once you have the owners of each area selected, you'll want to create a timeline to keep you on track for your program. The best rule is to start at the event date and work backwards, highlighting any major milestones or deadlines along the way. Then set up weekly or bi-weekly meetings with each stakeholder and make sure that each decision has a DACI to create clear guidelines on the owners and approvers. DACI stands for Driver, Approver, Contributor, and Informed. You can see an example of a DACI template shared with this webinar. Sourcing. The next few slides highlight some free tools you can use to help with your event. When looking at event tools, there are a few great free or partially free models depending on your event. Cvent is a great free tool for not only sourcing event venues, but it also provides step-by-step guidance on how to set up your event website or registration page. Eventbrite is another free or partially free registration platform, depending on the way you use it. If your event is completely free to attendees, then Eventbrite is free to use to gather registrations and host your event information. If your event charges a price for tickets, then it charges a small percent of the ticket to use the platform. Bookwen is another useful registration website that is particularly best for smaller events. Bookwen is free to host your registration for an event of 150 people or less, and then charges just a $15 fee for paid events up to 300 people.
All right, thank you so much, Lauren. And now we're going to jump into operations and logistics. So you can't talk operations without budget being the first thing that comes to mind. The first step is to create a budget in a spreadsheet and make sure to use formulas so everything adds up. We'll share a template you can use with this webinar for your events in the future. Then you'll want to add in all the known line items. For example, the venue rental, food and beverage, staff travel, and the estimated spend for all of those items. Once you have the current spend, update those numbers in the budget so you can see where you are tracking. With budgets, accidents happen all the time, so make sure you have someone checking it and that you are constantly making sure everything adds up. QC is key with the budget. All right, and now into food and beverage. You'll want to take into account the quantity of attendees, any dietary restrictions that they know, and the budget when ordering food and beverage for your event. You should always order slightly less food and beverage than your expected attendance, as not everyone will eat or show up to the event. But don't make the mistake of not ordering enough food for the attendees. Also note that sometimes you'll have to work with an external vendor for food and beverages, as not all venues have on-site catering. Now, speaking of venue management, you'll want to have clear communication channels with the venue and set up regular calls with them to make sure that you have everything set up for your program. We typically use a Google Doc to highlight our room sets, all of our AV needs, expected attendance, and our food and beverage plan for the event. And we share it with the venue during our planning process so that nothing is a surprise. And event staff, this area is a little bit of a tricky one as everyone wants to attend the events, but not everyone may need to be there. Additional staff on site usually means extra budget to spend. You'll want to make sure you have the right staff on site to answer questions, help with the setup, and that can present in the sessions if you are having any sessions. Now back to Lauren with AV.
When thinking about AV needs, you must first find out what the basic AV needs of the event are and what does the venue already provide. Think about things like, do speakers need microphones? Will there be a photographer at the event? How are the speakers share their slides while presenting? Wi-Fi. In today's world, we know how important event Wi-Fi is. Your attendees will likely be working professionals that expect Wi-Fi to continue their day-to-day work. Additionally, think about the numbers. It is best to assume each attendee could have up to 3 devices connected to the Wi-Fi at one time. It is important to think about how many people and how many devices will be using the same Wi-Fi server. You need to make sure the Wi-Fi has enough bandwidth to support your event size. It is also good to consider if you will be live streaming any content at the event or need any internet hard lines to ensure a seamless connection. Lastly, power. When exploring if your venue has enough power drops, you should think if there are any sessions that require attendees to have their laptops out and actively be using them. If so, you may need to consider having additional power drops at each seat. Presenters also likely need power drops at the stage for the monitors and presentation laptop they are using. Most events will likely require additional power drops, so it is important to look into this early and discuss pricing with the venue. Next, attendee journey. Every program will have a different attendee journey. This represents the look and feel of the event and the feeling you want your attendees to have pre-event, during the event, and after. For us, this means the on-site extras such as surprise and delight moments, the giveaways, and really any wow factors. It's also as simple as walking the journey and first impression emails to the reg flow and having a DJ right when you walk into the registration area. It's about amplifying experiences. Some key areas of attendee journey are music and DJ choice, swag and giveaways, signage and graphics, activations, and give back opportunities. Swag, signage, and branding are all key elements that influence the attendee journey. When thinking about swag, it is important to think about 2 key elements, useful and sustainable. You do not want to give away any swag that attendees will throw away or leave behind. Sustainable swag options are things that have a positive impact on the environment. For example, notebooks made of recycled materials or reusable water bottles are a great sustainable swag option. Signage is another key element of the attendee journey. The signage should guide the attendees through the event from the second they arrive. Key places to have signage should be to indicate the registration area and directional signage to rooms where sessions may take place. Other more obvious places for signage should be emergency exits and bathrooms. The goal of the signage at the event should make it possible for the attendees to guide themselves through the event without any confusion. If company logos are used on signage, you want to make sure this is in line with company brand guidelines. That brings me to branding. It is important to look for and think about branding opportunities throughout the venue. Some good things to explore are digital screens, overhead signs, and room signs.
All right, on to on-site logistics. I love being on site. It is probably one of my favorite parts of the event. So just some tips for you going on site in the future. Once you are on site, you'll want to make sure you have a few things scheduled. Get all of your staff together and do a pre-event huddle to review the agenda, go over any questions, and make sure everyone knows their roles and responsibilities while on site. You'll also want to meet with the venue as early as possible to set up meetings with the team and go over all the details of your programs, such as the room sets, the food and beverage, menus, and the timings for everything. This is a great time to identify any last minute changes or requests that you may have once you get on site. Once you finish your setup, you'll want to do a final walkthrough with your venue and your staff to make sure that your signage looks good, all the activations are set, the registration is clean, and all boxes are put away, and that the AV has also been tested. Once the final walkthrough is complete, you are ready for your attendees to arrive.
Thanks, Colleen. Now on to post-event. When the event comes to a close, make sure you meet with the venue and review any fees that were added last minute on site to be sure the budget is closed out accurately. Scheduling post-event retrospective meetings is very important to gather feedback from teams or other companies you worked with in the planning and execution of your event. This information can be used to better execute your next event. Surveys are also a great way to gather information from attendees post-event. It is best you have your survey created before you get on site so you can send the survey out to attendees while the experience is fresh in their heads. Linked to this webinar, you can find a template for running post-event retrospective meetings. The template outlines 3 main sections: what worked well, what needs improvement, and suggestions for the next year or next event. Tune into the upcoming webinar next quarter to hear more about how to gather data from attendees post-event through surveys and why this information is so valuable. Thank you so much for joining our event operations webinar. We hope this is valuable to you in planning your next event.
Thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you, Colleen, for those insights that you've shared around how Atlassian plans and executes excellent events. Thank you, partners, for listening, and we hope you will join us for the next webinar that we'll plan and be announcing to you shortly. Thank you. Bye-bye.